Welcome to Center Stage. My name is Mark Gordon. Our special guest this evening is Amanda Kernell, and she's a writer and director of SAMI BLOOD. This is her first feature film, and boy, she's hit it out of the park. Amanda, good evening, and welcome to Center Stage.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Tell me a little bit about the process of making SAMI BLOOD.
Yes, well, in my family, there are elders who strongly reject Sámi people. They speak quite badly about them, but they are Sámi themselves, and I've always known that. But they might say that Sámi people lie and they cheat and they steal, and I mean, and now they're Swedish and we can't talk about their past. And it's not just in my family, it's a whole generation. Like a lot of people in this older generation left everything behind and cut all ties to their background and became Swedish. And I always wondered if you can really become another person, and how much the body you were born into and the place you were born and the society you were born into defines you or not. And is the place you were born, will it always be your home, or can you create a new one? And maybe even more, what does it do to you growing up in a time where you're seen as an inferior race? How can you not internalize that?
And this film takes place in the 1930s,
yes.
Correct? Which Nazism and all that stuff was just, it was very apparent in this whole notion of racism. And so going back and looking at that period,
I think it's important we look at our past. I mean, I think we're all carrying like a mindset that actually comes from these days and phrenology and whatnot. We might not even know it, and I think that's the scary part.
Was it confusing as a child growing up to? I mean, when you were growing up, did you know you were Sámi, or were you're Swedish? Or I mean, that seems like it would be kind of confusing. And then, at what point did you start questioning your heritage?
Oh, well, I've always known that I'm Sámi. So I think for a lot of people, they might not know because our grandparents' generation, I mean, many of them left, and then they might never. I mean, probably they never told their kids where they were from or what name they used to have or how they grew up. But in my case, most people stayed. So most people are in reindeer herding today, and there was just a few who left. So for me, maybe it's been more confusing why they left, because I've always had a very positive view on, for my father, it's very important that we learn the language, that we know how the way of singing is called yoiking, that we know our history, that we know how to slaughter, that we know, there's a mindset to like how you relate to nature and all those things. So for me, it was more of a mystery why, like these. Like those who left, why they left. Yeah. And it's hard to talk about. I mean, it's an open wound.
It's an open wound.
Yes.
Do you think there'll ever be a time when that wound will heal?
I think that's why I made the film.
That's why you made the film.
Because I thought, I make fiction, and even though it's very much inspired by these generations, and I made interviews through the whole process with the script, with relatives of mine, but also and close family, but also other elders who went to these residential schools in my area, and like collecting their memories, because the film is really a memory, and where was I going with that?
It does provoke those notions of past.
Yes.
Because it starts out, it's a reminiscence of what's happened.
It gives you a lot of freedom in how to film it, I think.
Yeah.
If you film, I think film should be, you should find the images that conveys what it feels like, rather than how it was or how it is. for me, it should be how it feels. And then working with, that everything is a memory. It's not abstract or anything. I think I wanted to make a film that would be, a drama that is exciting, and there's suspense, and you should, sit on the edge of your seat. So it's not difficult to understand, but still it adds an extra layer that I like, that you're free to choose, like you would only remember certain moments or certain details with an extra clarity, I think. Especially, the place you came from, how do you think about it when you've chosen another life and you might never come back? And what do you miss with your old life? Yeah.
Well, there is this notion that you can become a stranger in your homeland when you do leave. It's sometimes you can never return.
Yes.
Have you ever had that experience? Because you're traveling. Are you based in Sweden now, or are you?
No, I'm based in Copenhagen. I went to the National Film School of Denmark.
Okay.
As a director, and then I stayed there. Yeah. So I miss my home. Like, I'm from the polar circle, and I miss the mountains and the light and the midnight sun, and I'm so fortunate as a filmmaker, so I can go up there and film and capture this. But of course, I think I wonder a lot about if can this new place ever feel like home? Will it ever feel like home to me, like a real home, like my old home? And can I ever become Danish? I don't think so.
What was it like when you were interviewing some of the people to make this film, and then also watching it play out, watching part of your history play out on screen?
Yes, it's to answer the last question first. I wanted to, because I grew up with knowing this world, and it's not very known to other people. Not even in Sweden, we don't learn about our colonial history. We don't learn about Sámi history. Most people don't even know that we had the first state institute of racial biology in the world way before the Germans, and what they did and how they did all this research on Sámi people. Yeah,
because you have a scene in the film which is that's a big turning point in the film, and the way you shot it. These girls come in, and they measure their facial structure, but what's most startling is the photographs.
Yes, they have to undress.
And it's not only that she undressed, but there are local boys that are watching, and it's as if they have no rights at all. They're just pretty much, it's almost like just being a piece of meat.
Yeah.
But when the camera goes off and her reaction, that was very startling.
Yeah, and I think that must have been scary. They took thousands and thousands of nude photographies, especially of Sámi children.
Which is creepy.
Yes.
That is creepy in itself.
Yes, but and I think that was because they had, like, the head of this State Institute of Racial Biology had an extra interest in the Sámi population because they were a good example of an inferior race, and believed to be short-headed, which would mean that you had an underdeveloped frontal lobe. And he thought that then you would never really become an adult, you will stay a child. And therefore you needed a guardian by the state who would decide for you. So let's say my grandparents and their parents, they were not allowed to vote until after the Second World War. And they were not seen as the same kind of citizens as Swedish citizens. Going to these residential schools, you couldn't get into the Swedish educational system. You were meant to stay where you were, because they thought at the time that this short-headed population, as they thought, were not fit for civilization. So you had to keep them away from that, or they would die from it. So they had this idea that in these schools you shouldn't eat with forks and knives, or sleep in linen, or be in, like, heated rooms. And for a long time, until the late 20s, if you had reindeer, you were not allowed to own or build a house. But on your land, like, Swedes could build houses. So So yeah, that was another time. But in making the movie, I mean, first of all, I wanted to tell a story about these two sisters and sacrificing what you're sacrificing to get a better life, and what is a better life, and sacrificing your sister and the relationship to her and your family. I think that's a great loss, but also to convey, or these stories that I grew up with. Like I all my life I known this world and this history, but also what it's like today. And it wasn't really existing to anyone else. And if it exists in a movie, it exists, somehow, even though it's fiction.
I want to let everyone know that you have an opportunity to see SAMI BLOOD. It premieres tomorrow night, May 31st, at the Egyptian Theater. It opens at the Lemley Monica Film Center on June 30th.
I've been traveling with the film since it premiered at Venice Film Festival in September, and around it was at Sundance and Japan and all over. And people it was a surprise to me that there were so many people saying this film is really about me, and that could be a football guy from Denmark or a Chinese student. There was this student who said, this film is really about me. And I asked, in what way? And he said, I say I'm from Hong Kong, but I'm really from China. But I don't say that because people will look at me in another way. And now I don't know if I don't really get any friends because I'm lying, because I'm not really me, fully me. And when they like me, do they really like me, or do they like what I say I am? But that's not really me. So that's kind of the dilemma she's caught in.
I remember hearing a piece on NPR, and it was about a woman that she decided to lose weight. She was very heavy. And when she was heavy, she was invisible. Men wouldn't talk to her. But the minute she lost weight, all of a sudden, she had all this attention. And so it's that dilemma. Because who do they really want?
Yeah.
Even though it's her at the core, but people are judging her based on this exterior.
Yeah. And
not really seeing. Because there's even a part where she talks about a person that lived in her building that she had met and spoken to, didn't even, when she lost all the weight, he didn't even remember that he had spoken to her.
Okay, yeah.
And also, too, it's this whole notion of trying to fit in. Because what's interesting about the film is your character, at one point, now she's part of this school, and she's with these other girls, and they're making fun of somebody.
Yeah.
And she joins in.
Yeah.
That's very, 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 very telling of that character.
But it feels better to be on, you might rather be the oppressor, right, than the oppressed.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of people ask me that, she changed her identity and become Swedish, and then to fit in, and they ask me why does she want to be like the Swedish people when they're oppressing her, and they've made all these terrible things with this school and these racial biology exams and so on. But to me, that's that's how it is. That's the world that I know. Because I think I wanted to make a film about how do you keep your dignity in a society where that is hard.
Well, it's also too, we get the sense that she's in survival mode.
Yeah, and then you might have to kick on other people. It's not a nice thing to do, but it's survival maybe.
So tell me let's talk about the challenges of making a film like this.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, there's a lot of challenges. It's shot on location up in the mountains by the Polar Circle with a lot of reindeer. And
are reindeer cool like that? Because those reindeer seem very relaxed.
Yeah.
Depends
on how you are.
Oh, seriously? So they can pick up on the vibe if you're nice or if you're aggressive?
Yes, and if you're surrounding them, they will choose the weakest spot, the weakest person, and they can run you over. Yeah, so we had to tell, the film crew had to help. So there's a lot of reindeer herders in the team. There are people that combine reindeer herding with film, working on a film crew. but also like full-time reindeer herders. And then we had like a regular film crew.
So you had some Sámi crew then too?
Yeah, we have. There's a lot of Sámi film workers in making this film, and it's also supported by the International Sámi Film Institute, as among other film institutes. But
which I have to let everyone know, you are the first Sámi female filmmaker, right?
Yeah, who's made a feature film. Yes, that's correct. But there are a lot of good ones, and they're coming now. I think there's a wave coming.
Well, this could be also open up the door for others as well, because they...
I hope so, and it's been like a huge box office success in Sweden, the film. So I think that might also help. Which is
interesting, because they're looking... You're basically putting up a mirror to that culture, right? And what response have you gotten from Swedish people that might say, "Oh, well, we're not racist, or we're not, we would never do that," or...
Oh, but I mean, the film is really more about internalized racism. So it's not just saying like, this is how bad it was and you did bad things. Like, I don't find that as interesting as like the colonization of our mind, like how we're like also colonizing ourselves, and it's so complex. And now I say we, like, as a Sámi person, but of course also as a Swedish person. So well, people have received it very well, and some of the elders have actually said like, yeah, that's how we treated them back then. Like, I'm so sorry about that. Like, now I can see now, like, that was how influenced we were of like the thoughts at the time. And I mean,
what was the biggest challenge for you
in making it?
Yeah,
I think, there's
except for the reindeer,
the cold,
the weather,
and the mountain weather. Yeah, it was making a film in South Sámi. There's only 500 speakers of South Sámi language. It's one out of 9 Sámi languages. It's one of the smaller ones, and that's the one I speak. So, what's
the name of the language again?
South Sámi, like southern Sámi.
So that's what the film is shot in, totally.
And Swedish. Yeah, and I wanted to do it in that language, and I wanted to find 2 real sisters, preferably, and I wanted them to be in reindeer herding, because I wanted them to be able to use a knife and to use a lasso and to handle reindeer and also have this, strength and dignity and incredible integrity that I see. Like, all the older women in my family, I admire them so much because they're so strong and they're such survivors, and I feel like they could survive anything. We say that they're like mountain birch. The birch that grows on mountains, they bend. They're all bent, but they don't break. And they sort of live forever. So I wanted to find girls like that. And that might be hard with a population of, 500 speakers. Because most Sámi people don't speak Sámi anymore because of the politics we've had and these boarding schools where only Swedish language was allowed. And you were not allowed to speak your native tongue, even though that might be the only language you could speak coming there. So I started two years before, and I found 2 real sisters who grew up in reindeer herding and boarding school, and they're really tough. Like, they are, like the main, like Katniss Everdeen. So I was so happy to find them, and then I offered them the parts, and they're called Lena Cecilia Sparrock and Mia Sparrock, and they were both like, yeah, I can do this. Like, they'd never acted before, except as the younger one in a small part in a TV series, and they said, we can do this, but we can't cry. Like, so if you want someone who cries, like, you should go look somewhere else, because it's so important to, be strong, not weak, keep your, dignity. So we had to struggle with that, because I said, okay, because, there's, the characters don't want to cry either, but there's, one little scene each where they do. And I say we can fake it, when it's fiction. You can put, this cream in your eyes and you will start crying.
So are these the young children?
Mm-hmm. They were 11 and 16 at the time.
Because the one that plays
Ella Maria, the main character.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's so good.
She's so good.
You know why?
So,
she told me, I said, you can fake tears on film. And she said, we don't do fake.
Yes.
Like, if it hurts, it should hurt.
Yeah, because you get that sense, but it's still, you feel, even though they're not overtly sobbing, but you do get that sense of struggle and pain. Everything is so restrained.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it even more intense, because what she goes through.
Yes, and she's so strong. And I mean, admirable, but on the other hand, she says some terrible things. I mean, she starts saying a lot of bad things about Sámi people to her sister, and, leaves her. So I always thought, like, is that a betrayal? That is kind of a betrayal. But on the other hand, I mean, she wants a better life, and she wants another life, and this is her way of, fighting the system. Mm-hmm. And that's a lonely fight.
How was it dealing with non-actors?
Oh, I've been doing that for 10 years, but they are so brilliant.
So what
these girls.
What did you do to help them, to flesh out those performances? What cues or what language did you use?
Actually, it's interesting because they speak Sámi as their first language, and then
I guess I'm
Swedish and Norwegian.
I guess I'm using the term language.
Yeah, I know you didn't mean it. Yeah, of course.
Not linguistically. I
know, but I just have to answer it linguistically too. But because I find it interesting that it's something completely different when you speak your mother tongue, because we say it's the language of your heart, like it's your emotional language. So sometimes it only worked to give instructions in their emotional language, like for my instructions. That's interesting, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's good too, because then you can say a lot of secret things. There's this love story in the film with the Swedish boy, and he can't speak Sámi, of course. So I could say a lot of, think about that you just had sex with him to her. Like, we could say that in Sámi, me and my assistant, and like she would start giggling, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" So that's a tool you can use, speaking like a secret language that very few people speak. But you mean what language I used as a filmmaker? Well,
kind of in a way. I mean, that's part of it, what you just said, using those kind of cues to help them get into their characters.
Yes, well, you use every possible tool to get where you want. Personally, I think it's so interesting directing actors and non-actors and making variations. But one thing we do, the film really follows this girl, Ella Maria, in her, this journey. And it's really close to her. Like, I wanted to make a film that was where the camera and we as an audience are in the same breath as her. So that's one way of, I guess it creates like a presence and working with like real time, the experience of real time at least, and being really close, because I wanted to be a physical film, like not an intellectual movie. I wanted you to feel it physically, and to work with the body and the elements like water and fog and smoke and nature.
Do you have that sensibility? Do you bring that sensibility to all your films? And
yes, I think so.
Is it because of where you grew up? Did you grow up in a sense of nature as well?
I think so. Like, for me, it's very... I never thought about it. Of course, I used like the snow in winter in early films I did, but then going to film school in Denmark, it became so obvious to me, like, I don't want to make a film where somebody's sitting like in a room in an apartment. It's too small. Like, where's the grandiose, landscape? Because I wanted to be like in this film, and I think in most of the films I've done, I wanted to feel as grandiose as it feels, growing up, as painful and as beautiful and as epic.
Well, nature is.
And nature can help you.
It's almost part of it's almost a character in the film.
Yes, and I mean but it's more like an externalization of how you feel, and a resistance. Because I didn't want to make it the dangerous part of shooting like in this beautiful landscape with the mountains and the midnight sun and is you might start making postcards. Postcards from Lapland, and I didn't want to do that. Like, it's a trap because it doesn't add anything other than like, wow, that was beautiful, and that's not where you want your audience. They should, like in this film, they should be with her, and she's not admiring the landscape where she's from. I mean, she might miss it after she left it or coming back to it. It feels different, but she's not. I mean, we shouldn't exoticize this place because the camera is interested in what she's interested in, and she's discovering Sweden. Like, she's discovering the Western, society from her point of view. What they do in a Swedish school, like how it feels like this botanical gardens with strange, pyramid-formed trees. And it all looks so strange. And the cakes they're eating. So I want to be with her in her fascination. So, because I think, that was there are always people coming. Like, there were always filmmakers coming, and people taking photography, and anthropologists, and coming to study Sami culture and indigenous culture. That has been going on for a long time. Both like the phrenology side to it, but also, of course, like more the tourist or documentary side. And that's why there's also like this, people are a bit like skeptical or hesitant hesitant to participate sometimes from the Sami society, because there's always been people coming being fascinated. They want to make postcards with reindeers in the sunset, and yeah, we shouldn't do that. I don't want to do that.
Well, that's like almost derogatory. That's like.
I mean, seen from the outside, it's exciting, but not for me. I think maybe it's more in like the positive exoticism, or but it still might make you feel like an animal. Like in the movie, like they ask her to yoik, like our way of throat singing at a party. And it's, should you do that or not? Like, they really want to hear it. This has happened to me so many times.
Well, what's it?
Today, like I get asked.
Oh, seriously? When you do these interviews?
No, yeah.
Oh, by the way, will you do that?
No, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, no, what's interesting,
but I'm not.
Because that would be something that in context, in a right environment, that's something that would be honored and it's joyful.
Yes.
But put in that, now it's, let's look at this person that's almost like the trained monkey act or something.
Yes, right? You feel like, she says she feels like a circus animal.
Like a circus animal.
She says in the movie, and I think that's what happens sometimes. Yeah.
Do you like metaphor? Do you put metaphor in your films?
Yes.
Because I'm almost thinking
symbols.
It's almost like this notion of the reindeer. They're like controlled and tied up, and almost like the Sámi are almost the reindeer metaphor for what the Sámi are to
yes, yeah. She kind of becomes and she becomes kind of an animal in the view of others. I mean, the film's a lot about how you're being seen, how you're being looked at, and what that does to you, and how you see yourself. Because they mark her in her ear at one point, and the way that you mark the reindeer to know who owns it, who it belongs to. So you cut the ears, and that's happening to her too. But by the end of the film, I think she's more of a predator.
More of a predator.
Yeah.
How do you want to see yourself? How do you want to be perceived?
I think it's interesting that when it can be kind of fluid, and I think that was a big interest of mine in making the film too. That people don't really know what Sámi people look like, so it's not necessarily in the color of your skin. So that's probably why you can change identity. You can burn your Sámi dress and change your name and disappear, or be invisible. So I think a lot about it when I'm in Sweden and Norway, and Finland and Russia. We're in all 4 countries, like, we're everywhere, but people don't know it because you can't tell unless someone tells you who they are.
So you were saying that the film was, it was based on a song? Is that what you're saying?
In a way, I mean, it's inspired by a song.
Inspired by a song.
Or a yoik. I mean, it's mostly, of course, inspired by the memories from people of this generation. I mean, the film is actually a declaration of love to this older generation of Sámis, like those who left everything behind and those who stayed. I think both of them are like true survivors and fighters. But it's also inspired by a yoik, our way of singing, which is it's similar to throat singing in a way, and they do it in the film. And it's really, I mean, you can yoik a place or a person or an animal or something that gives you an emotion, but you don't like yoik about it. You yoik the actual place or the person and you make it into music. So it doesn't necessarily have to have lyrics. It's the melody. Like, out of the melody you can tell maybe which mountain it is. Like, you might know you can hear how many peaks it has and how it feels like walking up, if it's steep or not. You can hear the personality of the person. You could probably hear if it's a child or an adult. After they die, it might become more melancholic, And I think when you don't have like a country, like we don't, like the Kurds don't, like many indigenous people don't have their own, nation, and we're spread out, across borders. What is important is what you have is the places, like, the land, and it means a lot. So the places you've been mean a lot to who you are, and also like relationships. Like we have more words for how you're related to people than there is in English or Swedish.
Is that important to you, a connection and relationships?
Yes, that's the community. Like, you have to, the first thing you would ask is like, who are you related to? So that was really important, I think, in making the film, for just to make people come to the casting in the beginning, because since people are a bit hesitant to maybe be in films because of, these old nude photographies and like the history we have of how you might have been depicted and misunderstood at best. And I mean, so that's why it's important, like, where am I from, which family, which valley, and you can tell from your Sámi dress, like, which valley you're from, which family, what exact area, which language you're speaking, and so on, and actually like the exact family. Well, so places means a lot, and there's this one yoik that it's called Northern Great Mountain, or it's the yoik of Northern Great Mountain, where we also shot a part of the film.
Well, when you know that sense of connection and family, then what this character does is all the more powerful, because she wants to leave all that behind.
Yes, and also leaving, when you grow up in reindeer herding, you're carrying like a many thousand-year-old heritage with you. And if you stop, you're breaking a chain. If you stop, it might stop with you. So it's not just like any other job, or, it's a life. And it's a struggle. It's a dangerous job. You meet a lot of resistance in many ways. But I mean, you're also carrying this on your shoulder. Like, your grandparents did this, your great-grandparents, like, because you inherit the marks that you mark the calves.
What did you?
Yeah, so it means a lot. Like, if you're breaking that chain, because I think maybe in the Western sense you have more of an individual idea of it's more individualistic, and in like the Sámi community, it's more about the
community.
The community, yeah.
What did you ultimately learn about yourself making the film?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think there's a short answer to that.
We've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, what did I learn about myself? I mean, I think I have the most wonderful job that I get to talk to people about things that I find important. Like, I make such personal films, so for me they're really always about questions that I have to face in my own life, no matter what. And if I don't make a film about them, I will be alone with them. So like making this film, it really feels like, screaming all these questions you have inside your head that you can't get rid of, like out in, to the universe. And then when people see the film, you get answers. So these things that I wondered about, what is worth sacrificing to get a better life, or what is really a better life, and how much should you adapt to fit in or not, and change yourself to be loved, or is it worth it? And then do they really love you? Because maybe that's not really you. And and how much, like I said a while ago, but can you become another person? How much does the body you were born into, the family you were born into, the society you were born into, how much does that define you or not? Can you free yourself from that? And is that a good or bad thing? Like, what does it do to you if you cut all ties to your past, as there are elders in my family who have done? What does that do to you? I mean, you might have achieved some things that wasn't possible if you didn't, but what's the price, and will they regret that?
Well, it's interesting because the career you've chosen, you're putting yourself out there, and in some ways you're changing, because you're becoming this really a world-renowned filmmaker. And, and so in some ways you can look at that. Well, have you ever thought about that? Well, how do you separate the art from who you are, or is it one and the same?
I don't think I want to separate it. I mean, there's the craft side to it, of course, like directing and script writing, that I find amazing to work with. But I think like the reason why I started making movies, because I had work practice at this amazing theater director in Sweden, and she does a lot of theater plays that she writes, come like out of her own life. It's not autobiographical necessarily, but it's inspired by or put together by pieces of family members' stories, or her own, or inspired by, and then she makes art out of this. And it might be comedies, it might be a drama, it can be anything, whatever form, but like she brings up questions that she has to deal with anyway, and all these questions that you might be very alone with. It's lonely, and she seems to have so much fun doing it, like together with these actors, and being able to talk about family secrets and shame and betrayal and all these things that are hard to put into words. And that's what I want to do too. Like, I find there are so many things I can say in a film that I, like it with SAMI BLOOD, that I couldn't maybe put into words, but I can make them into film, and you will feel what I mean. Like, this is what something feels like when someone look at you this way. You feel like this, but I don't know the words for that. And in doing that, I might feel less lonely, and like people out there in the world who sees it might feel less lonely. Like, oh, I've had these thoughts too, or I thought I was alone with these questions. And I want them to walk out of the cinema and feel like I'm less lonely, you know.
Well, once again, there's that notion of community.
Yeah. Yeah, but it feel like making this film, because of the sense of community, it felt like the easiest thing to do, because I could finally tell about something that I know after making films in Denmark and at film school, in a society that I don't know that much about, and I don't know their routines and the details and, you know, what food they eat for Sunday dinner, but I do know that back home. But on the other hand, it felt like the hardest thing I could ever do, because this has not been told before. People don't know this part of our history, except like inside the Sami community. And it felt so important that it would be right. Like, I've been making so much research and making so many interviews because I didn't want this generation to feel misunderstood. And I wanted the songs to be right, the instruments they use for measuring the heads to be the right ones, like the real ones they actually used, and, you know, so on, so on. Because this is writing history. And even though it's fiction, I mean, now it exists for many more people than it used to. So I feel a great responsibility for my community in making it.
Thank you so much for coming up. And just a reminder, you can listen to Center Stage every Tuesday night right here on KXLU Los Angeles 88.9 FM at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're also streaming on the internet at kxlu.com. If you'd like to contact me, send me an email, and my address is mark@stageandscreen.com. Until next week, this is Mark Gordon, and I'll see you Center Stage.